Well, hello there, people. I'm going to make a reaction video to this video here because I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And this goes in a little bit with something I want to talk about later on in this video. So this could end up being a massively long video. The day has come where one of the most hated guys in the Linux community is actually right. But what he's going to talk about in this video here is how I have felt the last 10 years of Linux. It's what I've been talking about a lot on my channel. I'm just a small little guy. He has a way bigger audience. So him talking about it, of course, reaches more people. But if you watch my content before, you will see a lot of parallels. Let's get into it. I will try and do my best to edit this in together so it's not too long. But
I love Linux. It's one of those things that I've been talking to folks about for years now, and it's one of the pillars of content on my channels. It's something that you've probably seen a lot over here on Titus Tech Talk, but over on Chris Titus Tech, the main channel, I've kind of drawn down a lot of my Linux content, and a lot of people might be asking.
So he's cutting down on Linux content, and that's also what I have seen. And I always thought that his Windows content was his strongest content. Like, that was where his expertise is. That's what he's really good at, Windows content. So I kind of watch that once in a while.
Asking why. And the answer is quite simple. And it's a lot to deal with the community that revolves around Linux desktop.
And that's the same
Linux
reason
as a
for
whole,
me.
I absolutely love. It's been something that I've dealt with in business for a decade plus. And I couldn't imagine a world without Linux.
So this is where I think the Linux community is kind of a little bit putting its head into the fucking sand. Because they think that because Linux is so great on the enterprise level, that it also is that on the desktop market. What enterprise and businesses need and want are not what the desktop market are needing and wanting. Windows just packages both enterprise and desktop into one, but the enterprise is utilizing Windows in a totally different way than we are doing on the desktop. Linux people don't seem to grasp that. And they take the success on the desktop, enterprise market, and want to replicate that on the desktop market, or a lot of them want. Or they are like, well, it's the best for the enterprise, so therefore it must be the best for the desktop. It's kind of like saying that one of those big trucks that move dirt around in a quarry is better, on the everyday road because it's the best for doing a job. Not the case.
In this server realm. When it comes to desktop, though, there's a lot of people treat it like a religion. And I have a huge problem with this. And it revolves around you can only use Linux for everything. And while I love using Linux for productivity needs, my day-to-day, I use it all the time for like my inside laptop. If I'm working productivity-wise, there's nothing better than Linux for me.
So he's actually using Linux the way that I'm using Linux. I use things for learning, coding, experimenting, and stuff like that. I use Windows for gaming productivity. Gaming and editing. I don't have the fortune enough to have money enough to buy a Macintosh, but if I had money for a Mac M1 Pro, I would have that to edit videos on, because it's the best fucking tool for the job. And a lot of Linux people can't fucking see that. They see, and this is my biggest problem with Linux in general, is that it's not only a religion, but then put politics on top of it. So there are three kind of people in Linux. There are the religious people that see Linux as a religion. There's actually four. There are people that see Linux as a political tool. There are the group of people that see it as both a religion and a political tool. And then there's people like me that sees it as a tool. The three first are the ones dominating the talks, are the ones dominating the videos, YouTube sphere on YouTube. The first three are the ones you hear the most. And also they are the ones that drive people away the most, because nobody wants to use an operating system or design philosophy or development philosophy and then feel like now I'm a Jehovah's Witness or, whatever it is, or now I'm signing up for this political party or something like that.
For me. But on all my recent videos, you may have noticed a lot of Windows 11 and Windows-based systems, and I do that on purpose. One, I'm trying to scare away a lot of the zealots of the Linux community.
So I'm doing the same thing here by talking about these subjects, and if you watch my backlog catalog, I am really outspoken about Linux, and I'm really critical about Linux. I am really critical about the Linux community for the same reasons as he's saying here. I'm just more upfront with it, but he tries to drive them away by showing more Windows content and more Windows in his videos. I'm just straight up saying it to you guys, so.
Community. The ones that leave comments like, just switch to Linux, or use Linux on every Windows video I make. Those types of people are causing a massive issue for Linux desktop in general. And I want to support Linux desktop.
Yeah.
I don't think they do this on purpose. It's just one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand marketing in Linux, and people say marketing's the biggest problem with Linux, and I would say no, the biggest problem with Linux desktop is the community.
So I kind of agree and disagree. Marketing can drive everything if you do it right. So Apple showed us that. So yes, Linux is not good at marketing itself on the desktop, and not even on the server market. But I do agree with that. The biggest push away for new people to Linux is not the learning curve. It's not the alternative software. It's how they're being greeted and treated by other people. And I will go into, and I think he also knows why people are like that with Linux. And I will go on a limb here and give my 2 cents on it. Like I said, a lot of outcasts are using Linux. A lot of people use Linux to feel special. A lot of people use Linux because they don't fit in other places. A lot of people use Linux because they think they can use that as a... it's kind of like how I use this all the time, and I hate bashing on vegans, but it's funny because they get so animated about it. But if we all know this vegan person, all they can talk about is veganism. All they can talk about and do is judging other people for not being like them. All they can talk about is how it's better than life and how they know more than everyone else and how they're better than everyone else and stuff like that. That is how the Linux community sounds to everyone else. We are the vegans of the Linux community, of the IT industry. We are the ones nobody wants to talk to because all we can talk about is how great Linux is and how bad everything else is. We use that as an identity. We don't fit in with a lot of other group of people, but we can fit in with Linux because Linux is so diverse, which is amazing. There's a group for everyone. But then a lot of Linux people, and we can thank Richard Stallman for this, is using Linux as a political vessel. Because that's what Richard Stallman is doing. He's using Free Software Foundation as a political tool. And using software as a political tool in my world just don't mix together. I just want my hammer to be a hammer. I don't want to have any political meaning with my hammer. A lot of people go into Linux and they see the Linux heroes. We have the autistic... Well, both of them, I guess, is autistic. I'm autistic also, so I can say that. Linus Torvalds and Richard Stallman. Linus Torvalds is kind of like, just do whatever the fuck works. But he has his idea and his opinions. I don't have a problem with that. Richard Stallman wants the world to change. He wants to alter the political spectrum and social spectrum of the world. And he think he can do that via software. This is our idols, in Linux. So they mirror what they hear there. So if you are a Richard Stallman fanboy, you become religious and you become political and to some extent religious about Linux. If you are in the open source camp, the Linus Torvalds camp, you're a little bit more, let's just get along and try to get everything to work. Here's the thing. When something is called a movement, you should be highly critical about it. When someone is using the term conversion, I'm converting you over to Linux. That's a religious talk. You should be highly skeptical. Just saying. And it's driving people away because they know that.
And it's this elitism attitude that is a huge issue. And it's an issue because let's just take Linux out of the equation. Let's talk about soap, for instance.
I love this one here.
80% of the world used one type of soap, and then you got this one other soap that, 15% of people use, and then you have this other soap that's just like a super oddball that 1% of the population uses.
The organic not chai paper soap
came out, and its marketing behind it was anybody that doesn't use our soap, the other 99% are a bunch of noobs and don't know anything about anything. Therefore, our soap is superior in every single regard because we have open source standards and we do all this other stuff. What do you think the other 99% of people would think about that product? Would you go, oh, wow, look at all these elitists over here and their soap. I mean, man, they're so passionate about it. I should probably try that soap. Or would they be like, okay, those guys are some crazy hippie zealots about soap. I don't think I want to use that product. Now, that's probably a terrible analogy, but you get the point.
Yeah, what we are the kids in the playground. They want everyone to play with us, but they have to play with us our way and do what we want and play the games we want, or else you can go fuck yourself. So as he say here, how do you think the rest of the fucking playground is looking at us and treating us? They're like, fuck you. If you don't want to compromise, if you don't want to play well with others, you can play your own little game with your 2 friends you have over there in the corner.
And that's where the rest of the computing realm sits. And that's why I stopped talking about Linux desktop. It's because of this religion, this zealotness of it. Desktop operating systems are a tool.
Yep.
They should be treated as such.
Amen, brother.
And I will not stand for that. And that's why I stopped talking about it, because frankly, it's just not good for anybody. It's not good for Linux. It's not good for any kind of person that would even think of it as an enthusiast operating system, because that's what it is at the end of the day. I still love covering Linux, obviously. On my main channel, I made a video about replacing KWin with BSPWM. There's still so much cool stuff, and it gets your creative juices flowing, and my love of computers is definitely reignited by Linux. But the one thing that takes away from that is the Linux community, which I will just come out and say is terrible. And I think a lot of other creators are afraid to say that because of the backlash they'd experience from it. But frankly,
I've been saying that ever since my fucking channel started. But again, I don't have the audience for it and nobody knows who I am. But I'm glad that someone with a big audience is kind of acknowledging this right now.
I would prefer those zealots to go elsewhere and watch somebody else that agrees with that religious point of view. Because to me, religion and operating systems don't go hand in hand.
Exactly. The same with operating systems and politics don't go hand in hand. It's 2 different fucking things. It just is. You can't change the landscape of the political world with an operating system or piece of software. It just don't mix well together. It makes no sense. It's trying to change the political spectrum by drinking this fucking soda here. I'm now changing the political world in Denmark by drinking a strawberry tasted cola, not cola, but light soda or something like that, sugar-free soda. I'm now actively standing against sugar drinks. Sugar drinks is the worst thing in the world. I am now making a political statement for drinking sugar-free soda. It has nothing to do with that. I just like the taste better, and I grew up with sugar-free sodas, so therefore I prefer them. No, I'm taking a political stand. Remember that, people.
And some operating systems are better than others for certain tasks. Windows is better for gaming. Mac is better for video production. And Linux is better for productivity. It's just nobody ever says it out loud.
I do.
And it drives me crazy.
I do. Be my daddy.
But with that said, go ahead, leave me a comment down.
Yeah, I will stop. You can watch the rest. He's talking a little bit about other things and stuff like that. But this video hit the nail on the head for me, because when I started doing Linux content, I did it with 2 purposes. I want kind of okay information. Like, I'm not perfect. I do say some things, and I do misrepresent some things, and I do fuck some things up with technology. We all do, but I kind of wanted to do a little bit more honest approach to Linux. And I wanted to do a more everyday kind of guy look at Linux. So not the politics, not the religion, and all that fucking shit. And of course, I wanted to be somewhat entertaining. After 6 months, I had to fucking block more people than I have done in 6 years doing a gaming channel because they were toxic. I had one being massively homophobic because I made a funny video where I took some jabs at ethnic and stuff like that, and he basically told us to get a hotel room and have a three-way with me and him, and I think it was Mario Linux or something like that. The people I have to have, the people I've dealt with in my 3 or 4 years doing Linux content on Linux has been some of the most toxic people I have ever seen. It's been some of the most passionate, because that's the word the Linux community use, people I've ever seen. They have been some of the most fucking uninclusive people I've ever seen. Me not talking about diversity and all of that fucking popular political correct thing. No, but it's like, if you don't think like us, you get the fuck out of here. If you don't treat Linux as a religion, as a political tool, you get the fuck out of here. If you dare to criticize Linux just the slightest, you can get the fuck out of here. Linux has become, for lack of a better word, a boys club, or a Linux exclusive club. We're talking the Linux desktop. A lot of Linux users treat Linux as their own private little club. And that's not what it is. Go make a fucking Discord and do that. And here's the thing. I see old-timers do that. I see new people do that because they go and watch the old-timers and they do what the old-timers are doing. And what it is tribalism. It's a massive big part is tribalism. Here's the thing. A Windows user come from the Windows world. He tries out Linux. He says, oh, this just works better under Windows. Why is that not under Linux? Well, this is open source, and this is how it is here, and if you're not willing to go and configure some configuration file, blah, 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 get the fuck out of here. And then, oh, I really wish that these kind of games here worked under Linux as they did under Windows. Oh, fuck you, man, this is Linux, and you have to configure this thing, and you just have to accept that some things don't work under Linux, and therefore you're not ready to use things like, okay, I'm getting the fuck out of here, I'm not talking to you. Every time someone from outside Linux want to try Linux and then are like, why is this not working as it is under other operating systems? Why do we not have this feature? Why is this more painful to deal with than on other operating systems? They are being told that this is the Linux way, this is the open source way. Either you go fork it, or you contribute to a project, or you get the fuck out of here. We are not Windows. You should not expect Windows and stuff like that. And here's the thing. People that try out Linux don't expect Windows or Mac. But what they do expect is the same kind of comfort that they have under those operating systems. Most people changing operating systems don't want to go back to the 80s and 90s when we're talking usability standpoint. They want to stay in the 2021, but they want more stable kernel, more security, they want more openness about their software and stuff like that, but they don't want to regress back to the 80s and 90s. We are our worst enemy, and we are eating the desktop Linux community up alive from the inside. This has been a long-ass video. See you all later. Bye-bye.